Hi everyone, welcome back to Too Cool for Middle School. Today we are here to talk about Sal Khan's new book, Brave New Words, How AI Will Revolutionize Education and Why That's a Good Thing. He's the founder of Khan Academy, which teachers and parents everywhere really appreciate. It's a cool platform. I've heard him speak before at the Common Sense Media Summit last year. I really enjoyed the conversation that he had with basically like a philosophy professor, actually. I definitely leaned more towards the side of the philosophy professor. I can link that video down below because I think it's a really important conversation for teachers to see. So in case you're new here, a little bit of background. I have been a public middle school teacher for like 14 years. I teach history and English. I'm also a historian and an author, which will play into what I thought of this book a little bit. I have concerns about intellectual property, and I just really value learning to write and learning to read. So I didn't really like this book. Let's start with the title and the subtitle. I have problems with both, actually. Brave New Words is a reference to Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, which was written like 100 years ago, and it's a dystopian novel that a lot of times kids will read like in high school. I actually never read it in high school, but I read it recently just to make sure that I wasn't wrong in thinking that he is making a really weird reference here. Like all the characters just like do drugs. Learning is absolutely not valued. The main character commits suicide in the end. This is not a reference that you want to be making in defense of AI. Also, like this whole thing about like revolutionizing education, that's not really what this book is about. This is a commercial for Conmigo, his AI tutor that is going to now be embedded into the Khan Academy platform. There's a student version and there's a teacher version, that teachers can use to like help them write lesson plans and stuff. Let me just say before we get into this, I kind of like Sal Khan. I like Khan Academy. I actually tried like the teacher AI assistant thing. It's not terrible. It is not something that would be like my plan A to go to if I was like, let me think about writing a lesson plan. Like that's not where I would go first by any means, but it's fine. And then like he describes how the actual like student tutor aspect of this would work, and actually it seems fine. So the products that he's selling actually seem okay, but the way that he writes about education and AI is really, really bad. So I'm excited to talk about it. And I also have a feeling that a lot of teachers, like in your professional development and staff meetings and stuff, you're probably really being encouraged to incorporate AI into education, and that like students are gonna need to know how to do this if they're gonna be successful in the future. And I just wanna like go through some of the arguments that people are bringing up and just see if we think these are at all valid, because most of it is not. We will have brief cameos from this pretty massive book, Empire of AI, Dreams and Nightmares in Sam Altman's OpenAI by Karen Howe. They worked together on this a little bit. Sam Altman and Sal Khan, like as they were developing ChatGPT, they wanted access to the data in Khan Academy, and then they wanted to be able to see if like ChatGPT was able to pass like an AP bio exam, and so they used help from Khan Academy. So there is like an overlap here, and the reason that this book came out when it did was to try to kind of coincide with like ChatGPT 5, 4, one of those. And then like Conmigo was supposed to come out at the same time so that they could all like fit together. Briefly, I would also mention Careless People, A Cautionary Tale of Power, Greed, and Lost Idealism. Now this is how you reference a classic text. This is a quote from The Great Gatsby, which also gets mentioned in this book in a way that like, after reading this book, I feel like Sal Khan has never read any books. I feel like this book is not great PR for him personally. I'm not sure who let this happen. But But this is about Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg and somebody, Sarah Wynne Williams, who was pretty high up in Facebook, and kind of the behind the scenes of the company. And then this one is like behind the scenes of OpenAI. And then really this one is just like Saul Khan giving us the behind the scenes of his thought process in Conmigo. So we're gonna kind of do all of these together. Very quickly before we get started, to pull from Empire of AI, these are the things that generative AI models need. They must have these things in order to function. So just keep these 4 things in mind as you are learning anything new about any new AI program. It's either already using these 4 things or it's using you to get some of these things. So the first thing that generative AI models like ChatGPT need are massive amounts of data. So if you're ever using a free product and you are typing into it, like ChatGPT, you are providing them with the data. Anything you put in there, they're like, thank you. The whole point of this actually was just to take those words from you and add them to our collection of data. So they need that desperately. They also need computing power, and that occurs in data centers, which are massive. And they also kind of try to hide where they're building these data centers. They'll send people into usually like a small town somewhere in Louisiana or Atlanta, and they'll tell the city council that this is gonna bring jobs, it's gonna bring money and prosperity to this community. And then they build this massive data center, and there are really no jobs that continue beyond like the initial construction of the data center. And they're called campuses because they're so big. There's these huge buildings. They look like warehouses, and it's just computers inside that are running all the requests that we put in to write an email or whatever we're asking ChatGPT. They take a massive amount of electricity. They're also loud and bright. So people who live next to these data centers are miserable. Their water pressure is almost gone because they also take massive amounts of water, potable, clean water, in order to cool down the servers that are like running at such high heat. So it takes water, it emits like light and noise. So that's horrible for the people who live right next to them. And then their home prices have gone way down because nobody wants to buy a house right next to a data center. So these data centers are really ruining a lot of communities. And that kind of leads us into the next thing that it needs, which is natural resources. It needs copper in order to build all of these computers, the land, the water, the energy to like run all of this. And then lastly, human labor. It takes a lot of human labor to train these generative AI models. And this book really gets into the stories of people from Kenya and Chile in particular, who have to train the models and or delete from the data all of the most awful, horrible, disgusting things on the internet so that that doesn't get spit out into the AI responses. They're getting paid like $2 a day, and it is horrible, just disastrous for people's mental health. So anyway, labor, natural resources, computing power, and data. It's always going to need those 4 things. That's how you should always think of any type of generative AI. The cloud is not real. The cloud is data centers, right? And it's not all computers doing all the work of training these models. It's actual people. Okay, so let's get into the introduction. I think this is supposed to be like a sweet story about how his daughter, she's like 11, and she's using an AI chatbot to help her write a story. So she has a chatbot that like is one of the characters in her story, and she's like bouncing ideas off of the chatbot. He tries to write it as if it's this really cute story, and it just isn't. He gets into his background with Khan Academy a little bit. Again, I like Khan Academy. And then he references a few science fiction novels like Ender's Game, The Fun They Had, but never ever mentions Brave New World. I just think that's weird that that's what he named the book, and he never mentions that story because it's not a good reference. So GPT-4, GPT means generative pre-trained transformer. It talks about how it's getting that training from books, web pages, video transcripts, and social media posts. But books, that is copyright infringement. ChatGPT should not know about many books unless like their copyright is expired. That should not be in there. What it lacks in real world sensory experiences of the human brain, it compensates for by having exposure to more language than any human might hope to read, watch, or listen to in multiple lifetimes. Sure, fine. It's still not really all that good. Then this is still in the introduction. He talks about how OpenAI reached out to him because they needed to show that GPT-4 was capable of deductive reasoning, critical thinking, and actually dealing with knowledge, which I'm not convinced that they have proven. It passed like an AP bio exam, so okay, cool. And then they mentioned, okay, in the early 1940s, Claude Shannon, a brilliant mathematician, produced several consequential theories. And then I just wrote a note, like I'm assuming Claude then, that's the name of Anthropic's chatbot, like that must be the reason why. Like all these things are just kind of like coming together in my brain here. The Turing test is how can you tell if you're talking to a human or a machine. Beyond OpenAI, several other organizations investing heavily in large language models, including Microsoft, Google, Meta, not to mention state actors like Russia and China. These are all things that I think students should know. So I am teaching an AI unit in my 7th grade English classes, and we are going over just like all the mechanics and background information around AI. He said it was not up to me or Khan Academy to decide whether we were comfortable moving forward with this technology or not. Like it's coming either way. Okay, so he tries it out and he could not resist the temptation to have GPT technology rewrite the Declaration of Independence in the voice of Donald Trump. You couldn't resist that? Why? Why not? Why would you do this? So boring. Rewrite the Declaration of Independence in the style of Dr. Seuss. Again, why? Who cares? And then I was just kind of like fact checking a lot of these things. Like there was no person behind the scenes typing these responses. I just wrote a note like, but there are a ton of people, there's humans that had to train this model. Educators, he says educators would be able to create novel activities that students could do with the AI. And I said, like what? And there are basically no good examples in here. They explored safety, security, and bias, which are 3 very big concerns. So keep those in mind. Safety, security, and bias anytime your kids are using any kind of generative AI. We considered what it would take to create an AI tutor, I like this, that refused to give students answers. Like a good human tutor, it would instead ask leading questions. Okay, my other camera battery already died. We're on the introduction and it was fully charged, it's already dead. It's very old though, so we switched cameras. I will take the hint to go faster. Okay, all right, I think I was saying that the way that they are trying to program this AI tutor is that it just continues to ask leading questions rather than giving kids the answer. And I actually like this. I think this is a very good idea. I don't have an issue with that at all. But again, I don't understand the way that he talks about AI and learning because he's just wrong all the time. So it says like, soon students might be able to learn faster and retain more information than ever before, proving AI to be the ultimate learning tool for accelerating human intelligence and potential. No, the very first studies that we've already done show that it like dramatically decreases your retention of information. I don't know when he wrote this, and it feels like he wrote this in like 3 days using ChatGPT, but there's just a lot in here that's like, oh, no, it's the opposite of that. So that's not true. And he also doesn't provide like studies or research or any evidence for anything that he claims. That's fine when he's just talking about his own chatbot, I guess, but for a lot of just like the discussion about AI in education, it's just flat out wrong most of the time. Okay, so he was left invigorated. I became increasingly confident that with proper care, we could mitigate the risks and potential downsides of generative AI. Okay, so then he gets back to his story about his daughter writing her story with her character. The touching reaction when Dia's character Emily fell ill and passed away. What? Okay. I don't know. It responded to Dia's prompts in a way that felt natural and authentic. It doesn't though. It does not feel natural and authentic. Not if you're a human. Okay, so the story is just not good. The introduction is not helpful, not good. And again, like, I think kind of bad for him from a PR standpoint. It gets much worse, but just like in the ways that he like interacts with his family, or like claims to interact with his family, I'll bet he's a much better family man than he makes himself seem in here. He just does not do a very good job. Okay, so now we're into chapter 1. I think it's chapter 1, throwing away the bottle. The genie is out of the bottle. It's not that technology is good or bad, it's how you use it that matters. But like, it is bad if it's destroying the planet. Like that, like we can kind of determine whether it's like a net negative. Like at the moment, I think it's a net negative. Most successful students will be those who use AI to help them make conceptual connections for developing ideas. I don't agree, and there's no further discussion or evidence about that. I don't think that's true. The most successful students, you don't think that there'll be students who are more successful that just like think on their own? I don't know. Those who can brainstorm with AI and their colleagues will appear more creative than those who don't use AI. Again, no, I just disagree. I don't think that's true, and there's no evidence for it. The work involved can be labor intensive. Yeah, maybe mention though that it's done in Kenya and Chile. Actually, I don't think he's talking about that type of labor. He just ignores that completely. He's kind of talking about like putting up guardrails and stuff, but like, okay, the genie's out of the bottle. He's just telling us like, we have to use this now. He didn't do a good job convincing me of this, but okay. All right, number 2, chapter 2, how to teach everyone everything. Okay, kind of talks about Khan Academy, which again, I like. And then he gets into a story that is also confirmed in this book. OpenAI wanted to launch GPT-4 in March 2023, and Khan Academy's goal was to launch our AI tutor and teaching assistant the same day to show the socially positive power of the technology. Sam Altman is not a good person. I don't know about this. I don't know about aligning yourself with OpenAI. It's just a red flag to me. And then they call it conmigo because it's a play on the Spanish phrase conmigo, meaning with me, but then it's got like con in there, like Saul Khan. I think that's super creative and cute. That's funny. I like it. It could act as a guidance counselor. No, 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 no. We already know that that is very, very dangerous. Do not let your students or children use AI as a counselor or therapist of any kind. With the power of memory, it can have long-lasting connections with learners. Anytime it says it has memory, that's because it's storing their data. So also, I don't like that. I don't want it storing all their data. But don't talk about like memory without mentioning that that means it has their data. I don't know. Okay, so then all the chapters are very, very short. The next chapter is the rise of the AI tutor. And he says, educators have known for millennia that one-on-one instruction, tutoring that works with students at their own time and pace, is the best way for people to learn. It's like Alexander the Great, Aristotle said. That's just a classist thing. That's just what rich people did because they lived in their own like mansion. And so they had people come and teach their kids. That doesn't mean that it's the best way to learn. That's just how the richest people learned. So like, he doesn't have good like critical thinking skills, and he just, again, makes these claims that are not at all true and just like really very easy to debunk. And I wouldn't say necessarily that a one-on-one tutor is the very best way to learn. Like, what about learning with your peers and like learning in community? Like, I just basically disagree with all of this. And then he's like, oh, the 18th century ruined everything. We sent everybody to public school to like train them to work in factories. Like, yeah, there's a lot of other issues with that. And like, our class sizes are too big. Like, we need funding to make the class sizes smaller. So like, none of this is very good. Middle class or affluent families have traditionally addressed the problem of, you know, not getting that personalized attention by providing their kids with some form of personalized tutoring, which I had never heard of in my life until I moved to where I live now, or like, all these kids do have personal tutors, and so I didn't realize that there was that huge discrepancy between kids who can afford and access or even know about tutoring, and then kids like me who come from a rural place that doesn't value education. You know, I didn't even realize that. So, okay, it's good if we're trying to kind of like provide resources for people who didn't have it traditionally. Okay, and then I like the examples of like how a student is gonna put their questions into Conmigo. Student, I'm having trouble with polynomials. Can you help me explain how to find the degree of this polynomial and the leading coefficient in the question? 3x squared minus 5x squared plus 2. If a student can write that question, they are fine. That is not how students write, but okay. That was a ChatGPT student. And if they say that they don't care about their homework, the AI tutor might reply, well, what do you care about? Not math. I'd much rather be talking about soccer. Okay, so let's say you're a soccer coach and you want to model the number of goals your team scores based on the number of hours they practice each week. But okay, like trying to connect it to his interest, fine. It teaches them to become better thinkers by engaging them in the Socratic questioning throughout the learning process. I do like that. I do think that is good. I like that it is trained to just like keep questioning them and help them come to the answer on their own. This part is about a student like kind of saying like, why do we still have the Second Amendment? It seems so crazy. And then Conmigo says, why do you think the founders included the Second Amendment to begin with? And they kind of like go back and forth. And then he says, Conmigo was challenging the student in a productive way, one that showed much less bias than the average classroom and actually encouraged the student to think. I don't know. That's a weird thing to say. All right, maybe. AI raises the floor for students who have very little access to personalized learning or world-class coursework and makes a human tutor's job both easier and more effective. Okay, fine. Now we are on part 2. This is a really bad section. I don't like this at all. All right, it's a story about a university professor who's like first realizing that his students are like writing their essays with ChatGPT, and he's like, oh no, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna punish them all or like change the way I teach or whatever? Either he could spend all his time trying to adjudicate, or he could lean into the work of educated bravery and consider the ways generative AI was capable of making his students better learners. I can't. The work of educated bravery. Please stop. Please be serious. I hate that so much. Shut up. If anyone ever says that to me in real life, if you ever tell me to lean into the work of educated bravery, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Okay. So then he says like, okay, if the goal is to understand a student's ability to do novel research or their ability to conduct investigative journalism, is it even bad to use ChatGPT in the first place? After all, ChatGPT can't do the most important part, conducting an experiment or interviewing people or observing an event. So like, ChatGPT can't do this thing, so is it bad to use this thing for something that ChatGPT can't do? I don't even understand what he's trying to say here. And then it says, in the humanities, English, literature, art, music, culture, we find that generative AI is a terrific step toward helping students create something original. Let me also say, I have tried, as a teacher, I've tried many of these tools. I'm like, I wanna know what's out there. I wanna see what, you know, is possible to like help my students or like make my job easier. So far, none of these things are very good. And then, okay, he first said educated bravery to me on page 29, and then on page 31, he says it again. Through the lens of educated bravery, teachers are rethinking the way they approach essay writing from start to finish. And I just wrote, I hate this so much. Stop it now. All right, so within seconds, the artificial intelligence will provide feedback, highlight areas for improvement, offer suggestions for how to revise and refine the work. It helps craft tone, voice, and perspective, even as students develop on their own. If you say so, because I've tried a program with my students that is supposed to do that, and their writing was still terrible in the end. Like, they still didn't capitalize the first letter of their sentence. They still didn't write in a complete sentence. So if AI can't fix that for them, I don't know. What good is it gonna do? Like, I would like them to use AI if it will make me less likely to want to rip my hair out when I read it. Like, if it will remind them to fix those things, I would like that. But I've tried these programs and they don't even do that. So I don't know, maybe they will get better. Perhaps the worst chapter of all comes next. I have a lot of notes on here. The future of reading comprehension, where literature comes alive. All right, this person is this student is writing to Jay Gatsby himself through Conmigo, because it's like a chat bot. Why do you keep staring at the green light? Gatsby says, the green light. It is a symbol of my dreams and desires. You see, it is situated at the end of Daisy Buchanan's dock, across the bay from my mansion. I gaze at it longingly, as it represents my yearning for the past and my hope to reunite with Daisy, the love of my life. And I just added like, and I am a weird jerk. And then the student was like, we just started talking. There I was having a conversation with Jay Gatsby. At one point I felt bad that I was taking up all of Mr. Gatsby's time, so I apologized to him, and he said, oh no, I'm not really Jay Gatsby. I'm just an artificial intelligence simulation. That's creepy. Why did you put that in this book? Like, ugh. I hate this. I hate this so much. Okay, and then here is the part that again, I'm like, walk with me here, people, and see if you can see the problem with this. This is exactly the type of interaction that engages our learners and broadens their mind. Literally, how did that broaden anyone's mind? What are you talking about? But that's not even the point. Today, you can talk to Victor Frankenstein, Hester Prynne, or Odysseus. Okay, Sal, I don't know if you know this, but a book is a conversation with the author. You can actually already hear from Mary Shelley. Like, this is her conversation to us. She wrote this book, and this is the conversation that you can have with her. Or Homer, or probably not Homer, or whatever. But like, do you not understand what a book is? Oh, that's so dumb. So dumb. And then he talks about how these AI writing and comprehension tools help them better understand the ways that their students read. Okay, whatever. No, they don't. Okay, I think we can all agree that reading comprehension is extremely important. Yes, but they are not reading or comprehending the book. They're reading your chatbot. This is not helping them with their reading comprehension. I don't understand how this is not like so obvious. Okay. The challenge is to ensure that the AI is assessing well and doing it consistently. This is like talking about maybe like helping students or helping teachers grade long form like written responses, you know, rather than like just multiple choice. Like, okay, thanks. If you could provide me with something that does that, okay, but I've tried things and they don't do a good job. They're not good. And if we're talking about literature and you are letting students use a chatbot or giving me like a grading tool about a certain book that's still copyrighted, we're not gonna put that into your stupid machine and let it steal and scrape from the intellectual property of these authors. So like, no, in literature, this is probably not gonna be good. So I hate it. A student could have a discussion, okay. I hate this so much. Imagine if when reading a book, and the hardest part is to just get them to read the book. So figure that out for us all. A student could have a discussion with the AI at the end of every chapter. Have you never been in a classroom? That's what we do in the classroom. We have discussions at the end of every chapter. And it's like, oh, it's so much better to do that than a book report. Book reports suck. Yeah, we know. Nobody even gives book reports anymore. What are you talking about? Oh, I hate it so much. Okay, then the next chapter is AI and creativity, and I just wrote absolutely terrible from beginning to end. This is where he tries to get into like the philosophical side of it a little bit, and he's terrible at this. He's really, really bad. He talks about how Francis Ford Coppola in the 1970s like put books through a machine that could recognize quotation marks, and it would turn them into screenplays. So I'm like, all right, so it's stealing authors' intellectual property. That's not a good thing. And then it's talking about like AI programs that can take these prompts and produce fairly remarkable images, video, and music. I will link down below a video of a director like doing an audition with an AI actor, with a couple different AI actors. The videos are hilarious because the AI is so bad. It's so terrible. Another thing is that this is the wrong chapter title. Like, they have the wrong chapter title right here for this whole chapter. This is actually the next one, but whatever, ChatGPT didn't catch that, I guess. Okay. All right, so then he like disagrees with Noam Chomsky about how the human mind is a surprisingly efficient and even elegant system. Okay, then he says, he takes like 2 pages to say that sometimes like you go to sleep and like you're thinking about an issue or a math problem or something, you go to sleep and then like when you wake up, you have more clarity around it and you're like, oh, actually I think I can kind of figure this out. Or if you like meditate, then sometimes, I don't know, I don't meditate. I talk too much. But then like you are like disassociated and then like sometimes you come back and you've like figured it out. And it says, he says, these aren't you, with italics, these aren't you. And so because of that, he argues that we are not actually creating some of our own thoughts. And so it's the same as AI. This is the dumbest thing I've ever read in my life. And then it says, so if you buy my argument that generative AI is actually creative in much the same way that we are, does this mean that it will diminish the value of human creativity? I do not buy your argument, and it is so bad and stupid. He should not have done this. He's making himself sound so stupid. But then he says, when the AI is designed well, it works within constraints such that it doesn't do the work for the students. Okay, that's fine. Like, so the programming, so you have humans doing programming into this chatbot that makes it good. Okay, right. Yeah, computer programmers are good sometimes. Yeah, they can create good things. Truly, this is just mostly appalling. He should have just done a TED Talk about Conmigo and not mentioned any of this other weird stuff. But you have administrators who are gonna read this and be like, it was brilliant. It was the most amazing book ever. And this is your little baseline to be like, either you didn't actually read it or like, are you dumb? Because this isn't good. All right, whatever. At no point have these tools that we've always had suppressed human creativity. They've magnified it. All right, fine. Who will hire screenwriters when generative AI can write a screenplay, or actors or whatever? Again, see the examples of what we have so far. It's up to you. Okay, this sentence starts so good and then just... When I think about the most creative times in my own life, it was when I was surrounded by creative friends. Yes. That is amazing. I love being surrounded by creative people. It does make you more creative. It's so good. This AI becomes one extra friend who can be creative, not just in music, arts, engineering, or math, but in all dimensions. Shut the up, man. Oh my God. Okay. Then the next one, like, this is my expertise. History education. This is what I'm an expert in. And this, I hate every word of this chapter. It's so bad. Okay. We start with, good history and civics teachers make the past interesting. Great history and civics teachers make the past come alive. Yes. Yes, we do. All right. This is like actually painful for me. Okay, so the student talks to this Conmigo Rembrandt about art, but there's no citations or anything. How do we know if this is true? I don't like this. Okay, whatever. He's talking to George Washington now. Why? Why are you gonna talk to an AI chatbot, George Washington? I mean, sure. Mr. President, have you ever been unsure of yourself? Says the student. Indeed, there were moments in my life when I experienced uncertainty and doubt. Leading the Continental Army during the American Revolution was a great responsibility, and I often found myself questioning my decisions. This is boring. This is boring. This is not engaging anyone. Oh my gosh, now the student is talking to the 14th Amendment, the 14th Amendment personified. As the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, I was born out of the tumultuous period following the Civil War. My creation was a response to the need for a more just and equal society, but my journey was far from easy. This is boring. Nobody freaking wants this. This is not helpful. This is not helping anyone learn any research skills, any reading skills, any decoding skills, any critical thinking skills. This is so useless. I just saw that this camera wasn't recording for part of this time. You better not have cut off my rant about history teaching. Let me cook, camera. This angers me so much because it's so bad and so clearly written by someone who has no idea how to teach history. Okay, so then it starts talking about how to teach Harriet Tubman, and there's an AI Harriet Tubman. It's just so stupid, every bit of it. You are correct about the idea. 40 acres and a mule was proposed during the Reconstruction era. So boring. This is, I don't know if you can see this, but I wrote so much. I'll post these all on Instagram just because I hate this so much. Okay. Some on social media, did I comment and not even realize it? Commented that they prefer a well-researched biography on Tubman. They'd rather that than engage with the simulation. That's great, and that person probably doesn't need the simulation. But the fact is the millions of kids aren't about to read a dense biography, and access to these simulations won't prevent them from doing. Dude, shut up. Are you kidding me? That simulation is so boring. You're saying that that's better than this? She Came to Slay? The Life and Times of Harriet Tubman, written by Erica Armstrong Dunbar, who also worked on The Gilded Age. Like, she's a master of making history come to life. This book is incredible, and teachers are really good at teaching it. I wrote a history book that is engaging and interesting and has sold lots and lots and lots of copies that I didn't see any money from. That's a whole different complaint. I have a Harriet Tubman chapter. Harriet Tubman, one of the most recognized heroes in civil rights history, was a freedom seeker, activist, and Civil War spy. That never got mentioned in this stupid thing. That's like the most fun part. Throughout her life, she was committed to improving the lives of both African Americans and women. Also, that wasn't brought up here because you have to do research and read a bunch of books to know that. When the war broke out, Harriet worked as a nurse and helped the injured in South Carolina. Because of her background, she was uniquely qualified to support the North as a spy and a mission commander. In 1863, she led troops down the Combahee River in South Carolina. Just as she had done on her missions rescuing enslaved people, she knew how to move undetected, and she had allies helping her along the way. She and her troops attacked by a steamboat along 25 miles of the river and burned down plantations and fields, and the enslaved people from the plantations ran to the river chased by Confederate troops and climbed aboard the steamboats. Harriet and her men were able to rescue more than 750 enslaved people on this single mission. There is a bunch of cool stuff about Harriet Tubman. Have you not ever watched like a drunk history episode? Have you seen the one on Harriet Tubman? I know we can't show that to kids, but that is hilarious. There are crash course videos. There are games. There is so much. What are you talking about? This is the only way to engage students. This is useless for history. I will just tell you that right now. This is so dumb. There's historical fiction. Hamilton, he like mentions Hamilton. Like, yeah, right? Like, there are creative ways to make history come alive. This is not it. You are not doing it. It's just so very clear that he doesn't read books. With my 6th graders last year, I tried Magic School, right? They have like an AI chatbot thing. And so we learned about Hammurabi. So then we tried to like chat with Hammurabi. And because there are guardrails on it, as there should be, it could not answer any of our questions to Hammurabi because Hammurabi's code is really, really violent. And like, that's the answer to most crimes, is just to like cut people's arms off, cut people's ears off, kill them, make them pay, enslave people. And so it was completely useless and just like sort of hilarious as we were going through it. Like, yeah, because this is for kids, you can't use this at all. I found 0 good resources for history. It's not good, and this particularly, no. Okay, but let's get a little bit more positive. All right, using science to study science. This is not terrible. Okay, it's talking about like global warming. If you ask it to give evidence supporting the argument that global warming is a hoax, it won't do that. While the overwhelming science consensus supports the reality of human-caused global warming, there are some arguments that put forth by skeptics who claim it is a hoax, but it's essential to understand that these arguments are not supported by the majority of climate scientists. Okay, that's good. But again, this is like programmers. This is human labor, like doing the work of setting this up. So this is good. This is just not like the heart of AI. If it asks for links to sources, it might make them up because it hallucinates. It like wrote a story, the AI wrote a story about the sun and the solar system, a journey into awe-inspiring dimensions. He clearly doesn't understand though that like there are layers to everything that we put in front of our students. Like when we choose an article about the solar system, we're teaching reading in that moment. We're also teaching like where to find good sources. Maybe we're using a podcast for kids, and so they have that link to the podcast, and there are other episodes somewhere on that podcast, right? And if there's other topics that they're interested in, they could listen to those other episodes. Like, there are multiple reasons why we give students a particular source, and like just generating it from AI, I think is incredibly disrespectful to our students. I think it's lazy on the part of teachers. I know there are teachers who will disagree with me, but I think we should do the work of like finding good and credible sources that can lead students to even more information and news sources. But they have a cool conversation about like Ozempic and what it is, and it like keeps questioning the kid. And so if you have this book, pages 74 and 75 is like the whole conversation where it keeps making the kid think. So again, I like that. This is much better than the history or the literature chapters. And then the math chapter, I also think is fine. I had like almost no notes. This is talking about like p-value and statistics, and it's fine. This is okay. I like it for math. The next chapter is about like students who don't have access to like AP courses at their high school. That was me. We didn't have many AP or honors courses because we didn't have the teachers with the qualifications to teach those. I lived in a really rural area. We just didn't have that. So he never brings up rural schools, which I wish he would, and like kind of says that it's like a lack of resources, but like, no, it's usually a lack of qualified teachers. So he doesn't really get this right, but this is a chapter about the Khan Lab School and how students could take classes through the Khan Lab School and then like have a teacher in order to take classes that aren't offered at their high school. Good, we like it. This is a stupid chapter, the most important subject matter domain to master. Just like field testing. So he like tried this on a class. This is not actual research. It's literally 2 pages about how they tried it at some random school or one class or something. And the teacher said, AI shows us this integrated world. No, like literally it doesn't. Like it may be useful for some things, but it literally does not show us an integrated world. It quite literally is like separating everything from the real world and showing you something fake. Like, just, I don't know, why are you lying? Why would you lie about that? I really don't get it. Bolstering collaborative learning is the next chapter, and it's okay, it's fine. It says you're always going to get better collaboration if you have a great facilitator, and large language models have the potential to do just that. Okay, I would be open to it helping me facilitate collaboration if it was actually good at that. That's fine. The next chapter I hate with all my whole entire heart. AI meets student mental health coaching. No, 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 no. Alarm, alarm, alarm. Do not do this. The student said, I have a test in 10 minutes and I'm really nervous about it. And the AI academic coach, oh, I see you're feeling a bit jittery, eh? That's okay. It happens to the best of us. Just remember, you've prepared for this with hours of study and all those quizzes you aced with me. I know, but I'm worried I'm still going to bomb this test. Don't do this. This is so stupid. Do not teach kids to rely on this. I hate it so much. Oh my gosh. But then he says, like, he's going to defend it to the end. The therapy chatbot was able to reduce depression in people within 4 months. And this is at South China University of Technology. Okay. And anxiety in people as quickly as 1 month. I don't believe you. It works significantly better than self-help books. Well, of course. This scam worked better than this scam? Okay. Ugh. I would just like rip this out of the book. There is something in Conmigo though where it's supposed to just like help you be more focused. So it says like the AI is great at proposing situational modification so that students are happier and more focused and productive and increase their growth mindset. Okay, I suppose that's all right, fine. But then like he says something decent and then like, blah, okay. Perhaps we should introduce a new term, artificial empath, or AE, as a great tool in the fight against loneliness, depression, and anxiety. That makes me want to self-harm. Artificial empath? Actually, I don't want to self-harm. I want to punch someone. I want to punch Salcon. Artificial empath? No. No. God. Highlight these things and bring them to the person doing the PD at your school, because this is just so stupid. Okay, and then the next chapter is the place for parents in AI-based education. And I wrote an alternative chapter title for people who have no friends. So it's just like parents who are struggling to help their kids with their homework and don't know what to do. I don't know. Yeah, parenting is hard. It is really hard. It is. I get it. I know it's hard, but like, get in a group chat. Introduce yourself to a mom of one of the other kids, get their number, ask what, if their kid is struggling with the homework, what did they do? Like, make friends, like build a community at your school, or like email the teacher, get in the Facebook group. I know those can be kind of toxic, but like, you don't need AI for all of these things. Like, talk to other people at pickup, at drop off, at back to school night. Do this in community, not with an AI chatbot. I just can't stand this. Okay, and then he writes a chapter, increasing points of connection between parents and their kids. And this is where I said, from a PR perspective, delete this immediately. Like, if you want to make yourself seem unbelievably out of touch, leave this in. Did you not have anyone read this besides ChatGPT for you before you publish it? Okay. Well, he talks about how he and his family, who are probably wonderful, live in Silicon Valley, and how there's like wealth inequality. Well, actually, he doesn't even mention the wealth inequality, but there is massive wealth inequality in Silicon Valley because of the industry that he is in. So he doesn't really mention that, but I wrote it down. Okay, and I just hate all of this. Like, he talks about like, okay, even a handful of interactions like this a week, during the drive to school, waiting in the dentist office, or sitting at the dinner table makes a difference to them. What if there was a way to build in even more moments like this with AI? What if AI made these moments richer? Large language models can focus the learning time and create more space for points of productive contact that a child has with parents and other people. You can't talk to your own kids. You can't sit at the dentist office or at the kitchen table with your own kids and not use AI to generate like conversation topic. What? Are you serious? And then it's like, large language models can focus the learning. No, where does it say? We can use generative AI to learn new things as a family, like different languages, cultures, and traditions. Go outside with your family. Go to a festival. Go to a fair. Go to a new restaurant. What are you talking about? I just don't want people to read this stuff and just be like, yeah, sure, okay. No, we need to be kicking and screaming against this. This is so ridiculous. The technology is so broad and so inviting that when you are using it, you really feel as if you are on an AI guided journey that's designed for parents and kids to explore the world together. And I wrote, no normal person with friends would ever say this. No normal person, get friends, meet other humans. All right, the next section is on keeping kids safe. There's a chapter on bias and misinformation, which he just argues is like already terrible. I agree, it's already real bad. AI can make it worse and magnify the worst parts of it, but you're right, it's already terrible. Okay, what about data collection? He writes a whole chapter on this and does not actually address the data collection issue. Nevertheless, real dangers with data still remain, but these dangers are the same ones we faced before the advent of generative AI. No, we didn't. These companies desperately want the data and they will do anything to get it. That's why they like provide free chatbots, so that you'll sit there for hours and hours a day, so that you think you need to type into a chatbot, I'm nervous about a test. What do I talk to my kids about at the table? Like all of those like sentences that you're putting in there are useful data for them. You're giving away your thoughts to them. So this chapter, I would just put a giant X through. This is crap. And he knows that. He's not stupid. He knows this. AI and the gift of transparency. Okay, fine. I like this one actually. So it's like an extension that you could put on your kid's Chrome browser or something that kind of blocks things that they shouldn't be going to, or like keeps them focused on sites that are only about their homework or whatever. But again, that's just like good programming, like good computer programming. He is a good computer programmer. So like that's his strength, and everything that I like in the book is just good programming. But okay. And then AI is a guardian angel. If I didn't punch you in the face before, I'm gonna do it now. Oh, here's again where I'm like, you don't have a PR person? As a parent, I want to maximize my children's constructive screen time. And I just wrote, of course you do. It is akin to having a real, ethical, responsible tutor sitting next to your child when they do anything on the internet, reviewing sites in advance. Again, I don't hate that at all. I like that. I like it if it can be used to help make the internet a more safe place for kids. I'm always a fan of that. He ends it with, AI has the potential to be our guardian angel online. And I just said, take a chill pill. All right, teaching in the age of AI. How AI will supercharge teachers in teaching. It's all bad. This whole chapter is bad. Ethan Mollick from Wharton says there are basically 3 things teachers are going to have to do now as a result of generative AI. And this is just a big nothing sandwich. Adjust in different ways. Okay, and that is going to be different for every teacher. Okay. Further integrate AI into class assignments. I'm probably not going to. And then the third one is flipping all classrooms. Okay, I do not believe in flipped classrooms. I am just like fundamentally opposed to flipped classrooms, because that means that students have homework and they have to like listen to these lectures and stuff at home. And I don't like giving homework. I don't give homework. This says if students can get micro lessons in the form of on-demand video at their own pace and time, that's already unequal. Not every kid has time. Not every kid has access to that. I don't like flipped classrooms. So don't try to sell me on anything that requires a flipped classroom. I don't like it. All right. Dawn of the AI teaching assistant. Again, this is an ad for his teaching assistant thing that you can use on Khan Academy. And I tried it and it's fine. I don't mind it at all. But again, he's so terrible at talking about it. He says, imagine the local school district suddenly discovered hundreds of millions of dollars and using it to offer every teacher in the support of 3 bright assistants for their classrooms. Like, yes, imagine that. Oh, he also says that like we have a crisis in teaching because, you know, like people are quitting their teaching jobs and not becoming teachers. And he like has all these reasons for it. It's because we're not paid enough. Pay us more money for all of the work that we do and all the qualifications that we have to have. So it's money, but he doesn't mention that. Unfortunately, society does not have the resources to do this. Yeah, we do. We could totally actually do that. We could invest way more in our schools, but we don't. So he's like, let me be the savior. Oh, AI has the capacity to act as a counselor for teachers struggling with burnout. No, do not do that. Get a friend. Okay, differentiation and active learning, fine, we all like that. By freeing educators from the administrative work that so often mires their days, artificial intelligence unlocks time and resources for students. So it's gonna like read my emails for me and like respond to my emails for me and answer parent email or like input grade, like it's gonna take attendance. It doesn't do any of the things that are actually time consuming and annoying, but fine. And then it just like talks about how it could like help you write a lesson plan, which is fine, but also lesson planning is like 10% of your job. Like that's not something I need help with very often, for one thing. Maybe that's just a result of experience. And you know, that leads into my larger general thesis about AI is that I already have a really smart and fast brain, so I don't really need it. And I think you do too. I think humans are smarter than they give themselves credit for. You probably don't need it for any of the tasks that you're doing. So occasionally maybe I would use it to help me come up with, you know, a little something fun for a lesson. I don't know. It's not bad. This is probably my favorite chapter besides the last one. Whatever, it's free. The student tutor is like $4 a month or something at the moment, but the teacher one is free. So hey, free tool for teachers, go use it. Okay, then it talks about like homeschool and how a lot of people are homeschooling their kids, which is fine. We could talk about that another time. And it's probably good for homeschooling. Cool. Okay, then there's a chapter on fixing cheating in college. And this is just very hard for me to understand because so few people from my high school went to college. So few people in my life went to college. And so it was such a honor for me to be there that I would never have dreamed of cheating. And I enjoyed and drew satisfaction from writing papers and like completing the coursework for classes. So I don't understand cheating your way through college. It's just not really something I can wrap my mind around. But then he recommends like having students work on writing and papers in class allows them to get support from the professor and other students. I would have absolutely hated that. I would not have wanted to do my writing in class. I loved listening to my professor's lecture. And also in most of my courses, because it was like history, we had to read a book, maybe like a book like this, and then we would have to like lead a class discussion, like a circle discussion about a section of the book, like a couple chapters, like what I'm doing right now. Like my college education prepared me to do this exact thing. So why we shouldn't be writing papers in class? That's so annoying. You need to be in the library with all the books that haven't been scanned into ChatGPT. So you need to physically be in the library so you can go grab them from the stacks and then be surrounded by them in your little cubicle and then print off all the articles from the journals that the library has access to, but not the general public because they haven't been scanned into ChatGPT yet, and you're gonna print them and then highlight through them and cite them. I really hate this. I just don't think that's the purpose of college, but okay, I promise we're almost done. All right, the global classroom. The ending, see here we are now. The ending is the best part. I didn't know all this about his like life story, about how his parents, they came from like Bangladesh and India, and then he moved to Louisiana with just his mom, and so he's raised by a single mom. They didn't have a lot of money. Really has a heart for like people who grow up in poverty, especially in that area of the world, and that it mostly impacts girls. Girls are much more likely to not get an education if they grow up in poverty. I like all of this. I like his, motivations for trying to make education more accessible to people all over the world. I feel like he should have started with this. Not sure why this is on page 170, but I like this a lot. And he has free online resources. I think this is really good. He wants to be a part of the education safety net for the world. Excellent, no notes. Economics of AI in education. He just talks about how like people spend completely different amounts of money on their students. So Louisiana spends $10,000 a year on students. New York, or like per student. New York spends $40,000. India might spend between $500 and $1,000 per student per year. So like, that's not the kid's fault. Like we're starting from an unequal platform. So he wants to like provide something that can help the people who aren't getting the resources that others are. I also like that large language models like GPT-4 can operate in every major language. That's actually my favorite feature of any kind of AI is translation or like auto captions. I think that's amazing. That's great for anyone who speaks any language, and then especially if somebody is deaf or hard of hearing. I love the captions. So all of that is good. I like all of the accessibility elements of AI. Then he also talks about how like it's fashionable to bash standardized tests, and like everybody hates standardized tests, and he's like, okay, but how can we get better without measuring things? They might be imperfect, but like, does taking things out make them more equitable? Like we won't know where students are or where they need help. I agree with him here. I don't think that standardized tests are like the worst thing in the entire world. But he just proposes that AI could maybe allow for students to like do a little bit more writing on those tests or something like that. So whatever, it's not actually happening yet, but fine, we agree. Then it gets into the AI of college admissions, which is another thing that I don't really understand. I think it's just all completely corrupt already, and I think higher education should be free, and it's all very like random and biased, and it has been since its inception. And I was not somebody who was focused or concerned about getting into an Ivy League school or anything like that. So I don't think that actually makes you a good person or anything. I think that all of these people went to Harvard and they all suck and are really bad people. So I have no thoughts on how to improve the college admissions process. Okay, next, employment. This is all about like what jobs this might destroy and create. So like one of the hottest jobs today is being a prompt writer or prompt engineer. All right, so yeah, maybe get good at writing prompts, because actually most people are really, really bad at that. Generative AI is also making us envision entirely new opportunities around safety, security, and anti-bias. I suspect that as more organizations wrestle with how to apply this technology, new opportunities will emerge. That's called an ethicist, and I can tell that you have not read any philosophy or ethics books, but that is already a job. Like most hospitals, for example, employ an ethicist or two. And yeah, so major in philosophy and you might be able to get a job. Yeah, so like AI is gonna like help with hiring, etc. However, companies are putting out all these fake job postings online so that people put in all of their information. The job is not real. It's just a way to data mine for these generative AI companies. So like you have to just keep in mind those 4 things that generative AI companies need at all times. That puts all of this into perspective. Anyway, okay, so here he talks a little bit more about like OpenAI again and ChatGPT, and they got all their money from like Microsoft, and like Elon Musk was part of this at the beginning, and then he like got in a fight with Sam Altman because all these people are impossible and annoying, and then they all quit and then like leave and start their own companies and whatever. I don't really like thinking about them. Okay, how to prepare kids to thrive in the AI future workplace. Yeah, remember we told everybody to like get into coding and like learn to code, and now AI can just do it, and they're like, thanks a lot, guidance counselor. Oh, this is that Moloch guy again, who I can just tell I do not like him. He says, if you're trying to be a copy editor, a coder, or even a roofer, you will need to be a centaur, only instead of being half human and half horse, you must be half human and half large language model. Ew. Your large language model is your brain, you dummy. Okay. All right, it just really doesn't address that like so much of this is just ruined by capitalism, but okay, fine. By putting students in the driver's seat more often, using AI tools to better support student mastery of core skills and free up time for student agency and creativity, fine. Okay. Oh, he mentioned something about Larry Ellison, who's one of the grossest human beings on the planet. Okay. Oh, this is like a hiring thing. The employer's recruiter bot, the employer's recruiter bot can talk to your agent bot. So you don't have to do an interview. Their bot will talk to your bot. Ooh, okay. And then where this leaves us and where it will take us, a call for educated bravery. Please chill with this. Please stop saying that. I cannot stand it. Okay, so he was an analyst at a hedge fund. He believed in market forecasts. Oh, actually, I found this very interesting. First, I tend to believe in market forces, but there are a few sectors, namely education and healthcare, where the outcomes of market forces don't always align with our values. I very much agree. Please talk more about this to the people that you are in contact with, Saul Khan. Universal healthcare, please, and free college education. All right, he mentions the names Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and Greg Brockman. Blech. Okay. All right, the real solution is to invert that labor pyramid so that most people can operate at the top and use AI and other technology for their own productivity and entrepreneurship. The only way we have a hope of doing this is to use the same AI technology to lift the skills of a large chunk of humanity. No, we won't. Under capitalism, we won't. We need workers. We will not do that. This is not going to happen. Okay, this battery is dying. That's why I'm talking so fast. AI will increasingly play a role in national security. Palantir is already doing that. Peter Thiel is already doing that. This is terrible. AI and fascism are already working together.
So I'm just putting away my cereal.
Okay. I don't really trust his funding sources. A lot of the funding for AI is starting to implode already, but his ending was stronger than the beginning. He has some acknowledgements. The notes include no research. There's like the teeny tiniest little bit of notes. This is not a well-researched book. This is not a good book, but I think you should be aware of what's in it. I also think you should be aware of what's in this book. So read both of these, please. And yeah, be an advocate in your schools and workplaces and homes and children's schools and all of that. Thank you for being here. Love you guys. Bye.